Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 248 of Just the Zoo of Us. In this week's episode, I am joined once again by a shark scientist here to review some of the coolest, cutest, and sometimes the goofiest sharks in the ocean, hammerheads. We discuss what it's like to study sharks in the wild, shark evolution, and the huge questions that scientists still have about it, the puppiest shark, and so much more. Just the Zoo of Us presents Hammerheads with Jasmin Graham. Hello, everybody. This is Ellen Weatherford with Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast. I'm so excited this week to be bringing a returning friend, a person that we have had on. It was quite some time ago on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you back. This is Jasmin Graham.
Hello.
And Jasmin, what are your pronouns real quick?
She, her.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to talk about this animal because this is an incredible, charismatic animal that I feel like was maybe a lot of people's, first favorite animal. If you were to, poll a class of, third graders, this one would probably be up there in, the high rankings of favorite animal among, I feel like this is a lot of people's intro to being, passionate about animals. But before we talk about our animal friend for this week, I would love to talk to you because you have been on in the past, but that was quite a long time ago. So for people who are maybe new listeners and haven't met you yet, Jasmin, could you tell our friends listening what got you into the work that you do with sharks?
Oh, that's a great question. I started working with sharks actually totally by accident. I have what I would refer to as a scientific meet cute. You know, this concept that they have in romantic movies, rom-coms, where two characters just meet and they fall in love. That happened with me, but with
the
sharks.
Clouds part and rays of sunlight filtering down, and there's some sort of swell of string music.
Yes, exactly. Except for me, it was your standard lab building, big, lots of windows, very echoey, very white walled and sterile looking. And me coming out of a research matchmaking day, which is basically speed dating for finding undergraduate research projects. And I'm leaving, and a professor is walking in, and he's late. So he's almost missed the entire event, which tracks with his entire personality, I would later discover after working with him. But I am leaving, and I literally run into him, stereotypical, cartoonish, blam!
Papers scattering everywhere.
Literally, papers flying. And I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I'm so sorry. And I'm picking up the papers, and what do I see? A bunch of really cool sharks. And his research was on sharks and their evolution. And so I'm looking at this, I'm looking at all these really cool CT scans of sharks, and I'm helping him pick it up, and I'm kind of like, well, what is this? What are you doing? What do you do? And I walk with him over to the table where he's setting up his little booth at the event, and we just keep talking. And we stand there for probably about 30 minutes just talking. And then eventually he found some funding and was able to bring me into his lab that following summer. And I started working with sharks and actually working with these CT scans and all of this stuff that caught my eye that I only saw because I ran into this man and his papers went flying.
That's how you know that was destiny. That
Yes.
was what you were meant. You were meant to run into that man.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you a shark kid, or was this an adulthood, a later in life appreciation?
I was actually not a shark kid. I was pretty indifferent. I wouldn't say that I was afraid of sharks. Sharks were I don't know, squirrels. They just existed. They were there. No shade to the
Shark
squirrels.
neutral.
Squirrels are cool. But I was really interested in the ocean. And so I actually was in college to study marine biology. And I was excited because when I was in high school at a summer camp, that was the first time someone told me you could get paid to study fish. And I was like,
Mm.
wait a second. I love fishing. Fishing is amazing. And I have so many questions about fish. And when we're sitting there fishing, I'm just asking my dad, why are the fish here? Why are they hanging out here? Well, you said that the fish are biting. What makes them bite? What's going on? And he would be like, I don't know. I'm just here to fish. You're asking a lot of questions. And so I was like, someone's going to pay me to just sit there and think about fish. That's actually all I want to do in life. I didn't even know that was an option and you could make money from that. So as soon as I figured that out, I was like sold on marine biology. So I was like into ocean science already, but I never really thought about sharks in particular because I didn't really interact with sharks growing up. I was fishing for bony fish, the fish that people eat. And if there was ever a shark on the line, it was more of like, oh, dang, I caught a shark.
Uh-oh. Oh
And
no.
then and then people on the pier would be like, "Oh, they caught a shark. Let's just throw that back in. We don't want that. Let's get back to what we want."
It's the sort of thing where you're like, okay, cool, I guess. Like, this doesn't help, but all right.
Like, I can't eat this. What do I don't want this. So yeah, that's kind of how I felt about sharks. Is they were things that exist sort of in my peripheral worldview, and they had somewhat coolness attached to them because they lived in the ocean, and everything that lives in the ocean in my mind is just elevated slightly. For instance, like bugs. Bugs are not super exciting to me on land, but you put them in the ocean.
Now we're talking. Now we're cooking.
And like, I mean, that's basically all that zooplankton is like ocean bugs. And I'm like, oh, but they're actually so much cooler now. And then the bugs on land are like, what the heck? We are literally the same. Why aren't we cool?
Maybe you can weigh in on this crucial question that I've seen floating around a lot, and that is shrimps bugs?
I would argue that shrimp are bugs. They are bugs of the ocean.
I agree. I also think shrimp are bugs.
Yeah, bugs are like small. I don't know what the Webster definition is. This is Jasmin Graham's definition. But bugs are like small things with an exoskeleton that kind of just like creep around. And that's what a shrimp is. Just lives in the ocean.
That's a shrimp to a T. They're just wet bugs. I don't think there's much to it than that. I'm a bug anarchist. I don't care. Worms is bugs. I don't care. They're all bugs.
Yeah.
What does your work with sharks look like? Are you like getting out on the water and being like hands on with sharks, or more back in the lab? What does that work look like for you?
So I am very much a field biologist. So a lot of my work takes place in the field out on boats. We are fishing for the sharks. We collect samples from them. So the first thing we do when they get on board is we draw blood, and we are actually able to look at something called lactate in their blood, which is very similar to lactic acid in our bodies, which is what causes your muscles to like cramp or ache whenever they get fatigued. And so that's basically your muscles are stressed and they're producing lactic acid. We look at lactate to see how stressed sharks are. And we also will take measurements of the sharks. We'll take a fin clip so that we can get the genetics, kind of like how you can get genetics from a piece of hair or a fingernail. We can get that from a little bit of the shark's fin. And we also will take muscle tissue samples, which we can use for ecotoxicology, so looking at mercury levels, looking at different toxins, and also looking at what they eat. Because you've probably heard the saying, you are what you eat. That's actually true. It's not just a saying. You actually incorporate what you've eaten into your own body. And so we've actually got this ability to take muscle tissue samples from a shark. You can do the same thing with your fingernails, fun fact, where you do what's called stable isotope analysis. And you can look at the ratio of carbon and nitrogen isotopes, which is basically just how much the carbon and nitrogen weighs, and be able to determine what sorts of things people are eating or sharks are eating. And so I've done this with fingernails with students before, and you can actually tell, like, these people are vegetarians. These people eat a mostly meat
Oh,
diet. These
wow.
people eat a mix of plants and animals. These people eat mostly cows and things that graze. These people eat predators more. So, yeah, it's very interesting. You can kind of see where people fall and know everything about what they've eaten or their eating habits just from this little bit of sample.
So, when you're taking samples like this and analyzing them from sharks, what is that telling you about the world that the sharks live in?
So for the blood, we're interested in mostly the individual. So how stressed is that individual? Whether that be from the process of getting caught. So we run that number initially. It's the first thing that we do because we can kind of tell what sort of state they're coming to us in. If they're already stressed, we don't want to create more stress, so we would probably not do a full workup on them. Similarly to if you go to the doctor, the first thing they do is they do your temperature and your blood pressure and all of these things to make sure your general health. They want to assess your general health before they start doing anything else. And then when we get to genetics, it's who's related to who. Because having a lot of genetic diversity in an area is really important. Because sharks can't identify their siblings or their parents. And so if there's just cousins and cousins and cousins in this bay, then they're just going to be mating with their sisters and their brothers and cousins, which isn't great because then they just pass on their little diseases and all of their peculiarities that exist in their gene pool. And so we want to make sure that they're not all cousins and cousins and that there's some extra DNA coming into the system from somewhere.
Oh, that's interesting because, like, I guess you can get these isolated little, like, population bottlenecks, and that's not helpful. That's not going to be good long term. You don't want that to happen.
No, exactly. You do not want what happened to like cheetahs, where like all cheetahs came from like the same 40 individuals and all cheetahs are basically family members. It's not great.
It's the family wreath.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you because, on the topic of being out there doing field work, taking samples, something that you have also worked with that we've talked about in the past that I would really love to bring up again is MISS, where you're getting out there and teaching the future generations of scientists how to do, field work and build a career in shark science. Could you introduce people who are new listeners to MISS?
Sure. So Minorities in Shark Sciences, which we affectionately call MISS, is an organization that was founded in June of 2020. So we're coming up on our 4th anniversary, which is pretty wild. And we exist to increase diversity in marine science, particularly among those who study sharks and their relatives. And so we support gender minorities of color and people from the global south who are interested in doing research and conservation work around sharks. And we do that in a variety of ways. We offer professional development experiences, workshops, training programs. We support research. We help people attend conferences to share their work. We help people build professional networks. But we also work on getting kids interested in not only sharks, but the ocean as a whole. Because sharks, as you mentioned, are a really good starting place for people. You get people hooked on sharks, and then you hit them with the science, and they don't even know what hit them.
It's a box trap.
Yeah, I accidentally learned science.
It's a Trojan horse.
Ah.
It's a Trojan shark, a big
Yes.
giant wooden shark. And then when you bring it in, then, oh no, all these facts spilled out.
Yep. Oh no, I've accidentally learned how to do chemistry and biology and physics. How did this happen? I was just here for the sharks.
That's how they get you.
That was me in grad school. I was just here for the sharks. Ah!
They got me. Ah, man, I hate that. I feel like I've been duped. Sharks are a great gateway into learning about science. And I think that a lot of times if you ask like a kid, hey, what's a cool shark that you know about? I feel like chances they're going to say hammerhead are pretty high. So for people who are maybe like, I've heard about hammerheads, could you introduce us a little bit to these very iconic, very unique sharks?
I would love to introduce you to my favorite group of sharks. Hammerheads are cool. First of all, let me just say I have a bias because I love animals with weird faces. It's my jam. I'm just into it.
And there is precedent for that because the last one you talked to us about was sawfish. And I feel like you don't get a lot weirder than that.
Exactly. Sharks with weird faces, rays with weird faces. Honestly, dogs with weird faces, like pugs. So cute. Not related at all to what we're talking about, but I just want to throw that out there.
But there's a through line of the weird face.
Yes, weird face. Hammerheads are super cool because hammerheads are a group of animals. People don't realize this. Sometimes people think a hammerhead is like one singular species of shark. No, there are 10 different species of hammerheads. Mind blown. Pow! Yes, 10 different species of hammerheads. And what they all have in common is what we call an extended cephalofoil. Cephalofoil is what we refer to as the hammer part of their head. So it's this wide head. And some of the hammerheads are super wide heads, like the winghead shark. The winghead shark's head is about 2/3 as wide as its body is long. So just imagine if you had 2/3 of the length of your body coming off the side of your face. Excessive.
This thing, if you haven't seen a picture of this thing, please look it up immediately. It passes with hammerheads, you see a hammerhead, you're like, oh, it looks so cool. The winghead, I feel like passes through cool and loops back around to being goofy again.
Yes.
Because there's a certain head width where you're like, now that's getting silly.
It's too much. It's too much. Millions of years of evolution, and that is what you've come up with? All right. Okay.
This dude's eyes are in different area codes.
Right. Heads are super wide. Then we have things like bonnet heads, which are my favorite species of shark. Bonnet heads have heads that are just kind of shovel-like. They literally look like they're wearing little bonnets. They're adorable. Yes, they're so cute. They're also the first shark discovered to be omnivorous. So they eat seagrass. It actually makes up to 60% of their diet. So they actually eat more plants than they do animals. Another mind-blowing fact. Pow, pow.
And that's amazing because people don't think about sharks eating plant matter at all.
Yeah, and they're just grubbing down. They're like, I'm going to have my shrimp, and I'm going to have a little side salad of seaweed over here. Nom nom, nice balanced diet. They're great.
A very diet queen.
Yes, hammerheads span the gamut from 13 feet long great hammerheads to 4 foot long little bonnet heads and wacky wide wing heads all the way to cute little respectable sized little shovel bonnets.
The proper shark. Because you like them when they're compact because then you can pick them up and carry them around. I'm sure they don't like for you to do that, but probably makes your job easier working on them.
Yes, it is definitely easier to handle a bonnet head shark than it is a great hammerhead, for sure.
Hey there, we are going to take a quick break to hear from a couple of our friends on the Maximum Fun Network. When we get back, we are going to get into our ratings for hammerhead sharks, so stay with us.
City pop to me is like a feeling.
City pop is beautiful music.
It's music that makes me emotional.
There's so many different sounds that fall into the city pop category.
It just feels very home to me.
We're just about wrapped on our inaugural season of Primer. If you didn't know, Primer is a new podcast that explores music from outside the English-speaking world. And Vulture called us one of the best podcasts of the year. Our first season covered Japanese city pop, and you just heard a few of our past guests share what the genre means to them. Learn more about the world of city pop and listen to some cool tunes. And if you like what we're doing, you can make a one-time contribution and help us reach our goal to produce a second season about a new genre. Support Primer over at MaximumFun.org/Primer.
Hi, I'm Jesse Thorne, the founder of Maximum Fun, and I have a special announcement. I'm no longer embarrassed by my brother, and me. You know, for years, each new episode of this supposed advice show was a fresh insult, a depraved jumble of erection jokes, ghost humor, and frankly, this is for the best, very little actionable advice. But now, as they enter their twilight years, I'm as surprised as anyone to admit that it's gotten kind of good. Justin, Travis, and Griffin's witticisms are more refined, like a humor column in a fancy magazine. And they hardly ever say bazinga anymore. So, after you've completely finished listening to every single one of all of our other shows, why not join the McElroy brothers every week for My Brother, and Me?
So if this is anyone's first time listening to this podcast, our whole deal is that we review animals by rating them out of 10 in different categories. The first category we rate animals on is effectiveness. This is physical adaptations, things that are built into this animal's body that let them do a good job of the things they're trying to do, whether that is finding and catching prey, not becoming prey themselves, things that are kind of built in, tools they have in their belt. Jasmine, what do you give hammerheads out of 10? For effectiveness?
Okay, I'm going to rate them separately.
Ooh,
I'm gonna
okay.
slice and dice. Okay, so bonnet heads, compact, cute, stylish.
A shark on the go.
Yes, but also often confused. They are perhaps the most confused shark that I work with, where I'll release it and it'll be like, what if I swam directly back into your net? That seems like a good idea. And you're like, no, don't do that. And so
this is all I know now. I can't go back.
So I'm going to give them a 6.5 because they effectively do things, but they are often confused, which is fine because me too. I'm effective, but also often confused. So this is no shade to the bonnet heads. So 6.5 for the bonnet heads. I'm going to rate the great hammerheads. Great hammerheads are amazing, powerful, strong, just like a goddess of a shark. The hammerhead sharks in Bimini, these big, massive female sharks that come back to Bimini every year. They're literally named after Greek goddesses because of how majestic and beautiful they are. Their one downside, they get stressed super easily. So they are like peak efficiency in the ideal conditions. And then if anything changes slightly, they're like, oh no, I'm not ready for this. Oh goodness. And then they're like, full panic. I am now stressed.
Listen.
I am slightly inconvenienced and now I'm stressed.
Everything you've said about these sharks so far has been like extremely relatable because this just sounds like at a minor inconvenience, I too am like, well, that's it for me. I guess I'll die.
Yep. So I would give the great hammerheads 8.5 out of 10. They're very efficient until they're slightly inconvenienced. And then I'm not going to rate all 10 hammerheads because we'll be here all day. So I'm just going to go to the winghead shark. The winghead shark is a definitive 3 out of 10. Why?
Oh no!
Why do you exist?
Like, clearly you didn't have to do all that.
Why is your head so wide? What is happening? So, a not so fun fact about winghead sharks: when winghead sharks are caught, they don't live in the part of the world that I'm in Florida here, but when they are caught, oftentimes they die. And the reason why they do that is because as soon as you pull them out of the water, their heads are so heavy that it immediately snaps their neck.
No! Oh no, this is a huge design flaw.
Yeah, their heads only work underwater. Like, Otherwise, it's like, oh no, now my head's too heavy.
Which I guess prior to humans reaching into the water and yanking them out, they probably didn't have to worry about that a lot.
Yes.
Like, they probably didn't have, I mean, so I guess I can't fault them for that, but also, like, that seems like a huge oversight. This seems like we should have had, like, another pass through the designing phase.
Yes. Yeah. And so winghead sharks, just weird alien critters who have taken it too far. They, like you said, they passed cool and went to weird and silly. So
you have like a little narrow window of head width where it's cool, and then like if you go past it, you're out of the cool range.
Yeah. So, and they're so small. Like they're not very big. So I could see if you were like, I'm gonna grow to be 15 feet long and then I'm gonna have a massive head. No, I'm gonna be 4 feet long and have a 3 foot wide head. That makes zero sense.
This is my eye span. You've heard of wingspan. This one's got an eye span. So all of these hammerheads have this, like you mentioned, this cephalofoil. This is kind of the thing that makes them what they are, like sets them apart from the other sharks. And I gotta ask why. Like, what's going on here? Why is it? This is such a dramatic adaptation. Like, what is going on here? Why are they like that?
I knew that you were going to ask that question because it's the question that we all ask. And here, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Scientists don't know.
This is pretty goofy. I don't know what's going on here. They were getting creative with it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of theories, and some of these theories have varying levels of support. So one theory is that it's sort of an additional sort of rudder that helps them steer and make quick movements. Another theory is that it puts their eyes so far apart that it gives them almost 360-degree vision. Another theory is that they use it to pin down stingrays, a food that great hammerheads and some other hammerhead species like to eat a lot. And so here's another thing that I'm going to posit for you, because I spent 4 years studying this. What if, and hear me out, it actually is not beneficial at all? And
what if it just doesn't actively kill them?
Yes. And I say that because we've studied the evolution of hammerheads, and there are 2 conflicting hypotheses about how hammerheads evolved. And one hypothesis shows that the sharks with the smaller heads, like the bonnet heads, they're most closely related to the ancestor. And so the sharks' heads have been getting wider as time progressed through evolution, which would indicate that maybe there's an advantage. But then there's another hypothesis that shows the opposite, that the wing head with the super wide head is actually the most closely related to the common ancestor. And therefore, all of their heads have actually been getting smaller over time, which would imply that it's actually not useful.
They were like, this is too much. We need to trim some length off of here.
And so it could just be a fluke, which is funny because it's a head and flukes are tails. But but it could be a total random accident. And a lot of times people think of evolution as being purely survival of the fittest, that whatever exists now is the best form. And that's not necessarily true, because random mutations happen. And so there could have just been a shark or, several hundred sharks that were just born with a ridiculous head. And then they went through life and it was like, it's not killing me. And they were able to find some nice lady sharks that could look past their weird head and still wanted to mate with them. And they passed on their weird head genes. And so then there were more sharks with weird heads. And it was like, I guess this isn't the worst.
What if the female sharks were like, this might be something, I don't know. Like, this might help. Let's try it.
And so the other thing is that it could not be an advantage at all. It could just be a random mutation that just exists. and they've been trying to slowly get rid of it this whole time. And I spent 4 years trying to figure out this question, and what I came up with is that we don't have the tools in which to answer that question. that's where I got. I was like, okay.
That is an extremely scientist answer. That is such a scientist answer.
So it was like, okay, I tried every method that I could think of to clarify this. I looked at mitochondrial DNA, which is DNA that's found in the mitochondria, which you might know from school is the, quote, powerhouse of the cell. But it also has DNA that's only passed from your mother. So that's interesting. So I used that DNA. I used DNA from the nucleus, which is sort of the brain of the cell, which has genetic information from both the mother and the father. I used anatomy, looking at CT scans. I used all of these things, and it still came out as, And I was like, okay, cool. And basically what I found out is that we don't have enough information about the ancestor to figure out where the root of the tree starts.
Because you would have to know that to know whether the cephalofoils are getting bigger or smaller over time.
Yep. And with our technology that we have here, we can't figure out where the tree starts. That's the problem with sharks, is they're incredibly old, and they also don't leave a lot of fossils behind because they're made of cartilage. And cartilage, unlike bone, does not fossilize well. And so we have teeth and like a few random pieces of sharks that happen to fall into like a underwater volcano or something like that and got like super cooled in some rock or something. And that's it. The rest of it, we're just guessing. We're just making up.
I remember when my husband and I did an episode where he was talking about megalodon. I remember being really surprised, but then once I thought about it, it made more sense that like all we really have of megalodon are teeth. And like you just have to kind of fill in the blanks. Like, well, we know from this tooth size that it must have been at least this big. Like a lot of it is just like, well, based on what we know about sharks and these teeth we found. Like that's so crazy to me that we can like figure stuff out based on such a small amount of evidence.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, people are surprised when they ask me as a scientist a question and I just answer, I don't know. And they're like, what? You don't know? And I have to remind people that that's how science works.
Right. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's such an important part of the scientific process, like leaving room for, I don't know, like it could be this. Like once you come to an answer where you're so sure about like this must be it, then I feel like that kind of cuts you off from learning more. So I don't know. I get excited about a mystery.
Yeah.
I like it when there's like more questions to be asked about it. When you were talking about, you know, looking back at the common ancestor, I know this is not an ancestor of sharks, but talking about the winghead shark made me think of probably my favorite long extinct animal, which is the Tully monster. Have you seen this little guy?
I have not. I'm going to look it up right now.
Okay. Do a quick Google search for Tully. That's Tully, Tully monster. Tullamonstrum is the like scientific name of it.
Oh, that looks ridiculous. That looks like a character from a Cartoon Network show.
I think it looks like if you've ever played the video game Spore, like really early on in the game when you only have a very limited amount of like body parts to put on your creature that you're evolving, it looks like one of those early game sort of passes at evolving a creature, because none of it really makes any sense at all. But the thing that reminded me of what we were talking about is these eye stalks that just kind of go like off to the side in either direction in the silliest way possible.
Yeah, and so this reminds me, talking about the eye stalks, I CT scanned a hammerhead one time, that this specimen that we got from this museum collection, obviously whenever it was collected, the female shark was gravid. She had babies inside her. And so we CT scanned and we could actually see the little pups in her little uterus. And the pups, talk about weird alien looking things. So what we figured out is that the eyeballs and like the nerve that connects the eyeballs form first, and then the cephalofoil forms and just kind of lifts them up. So like in this CT scan, it looked like nightmare fuel of just like these little shark pups that looked normal, but then had these long eyeballs just dangling from their heads. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I hate it.
I don't like that at all.
Can you untell me about that? I want to delete that from my brain. I wish I didn't know that. That's horrible.
Well, I know it, and now you have to know it, and all of the listeners now know it too. So misery loves company.
We've all been burdened with knowledge. The next category that we rate animals on is ingenuity. This is behavior, things the animal is doing with their body to maybe solve problems that they face or interact with their environment, navigate their world. You mentioned that bonnet heads can be pretty prone to confusion and the great hammerheads are a little prone to stress. So, I don't know where you're going to fall on this one, but what do you give hammerheads out of 10 for ingenuity?
So I think as a whole, hammerheads get a 10 out of 10 for ingenuity.
Okay.
Because that's wild. Like, you just grew a whole, like, extra side extension to your head. It's pretty rad, very innovative. And if it serves a purpose, which we don't understand, and so they're smarter than us because they're doing something that we don't even understand that they're doing, or it's not beneficial and they've somehow made it beneficial enough to convince us that it might be beneficial, which is pretty impressive.
Play with the hand you're dealt.
Yeah. So like they're over there just pinning stingrays down with their heads and like using their heads to navigate around and bumping into stuff. Because they do love to bump into stuff, bonnet heads especially, because they have all their ampullae of Lorenzini, which is their sixth sense. They have this ability to sense electrical charges. And so they're like hypersensitive along that cephalofoil. And that's another one of the theories, is that they've spread out those sensory organs so they're more sensitive than other sharks. And this hasn't been proven. But I will say that hammerheads do tend to butt their heads against things pretty often, like in an exploratory way. So maybe they're just like figuring out how to, like, okay, I have this weird head. I guess I should figure out something useful to do with it. And I applaud them for that. So I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10.
It's like when you see like a piece of furniture that someone has put out on their curb to be collected by trash. And you're like, well, it's free. I might as well figure out something to do with it. Like, I enjoy playing with the hand that you are dealt, and like, well, I might as well. I don't want it to go to waste, so I got to figure out something to do with it. I got all these weird ingredients in my fridge. I guess I'll make something with it.
Exactly.
That was something I had heard about hammerheads before, that like the sensory reception in their cephalofoil was like contributing to the size of it. So I would be interested to see like if there are studies into like the density or the sensitivity of their head. I'm going to keep an eye out for stuff like that.
It's funny you say that. We actually have some MIST members working on understanding that.
Oh my gosh.
So that is an ongoing project.
That is so exciting. I will definitely be keeping an eye out, because I love a good science question. And for a lot of people, the cephalofoil, whatever it's used for, whatever purpose it has, it's definitely a key part of the hammerhead's look, which brings us to the final category we rate animals on, which is aesthetics. Just how nice this animal is to look at, whether they're cute, cool, beautiful, whatever you think about hammerhead sharks. What do you give them out of 10 for aesthetics?
So I'm going to start with the winghead shark. It's not...
Drag them. I mean, I feel like it's time to... This is a roast now, I think.
Somewhere in this world, there is a winghead shark that has somehow figured out how to listen to this podcast, and they're crying. So the wing-headed shark is I'm going to give it a generous 6. A generous 6. And so they've passed cool. They're now on to weird. But I'm going to give them some bonus points for trying and to taking a bold step. It's like whenever someone makes a perhaps questionable fashion choice, but you have to admire that they were like, you know what I'm going to wear? All leather. That's what I'm doing. And you're like, I don't know if that's the best choice, but I appreciate your boldness. And that's how I feel about the winghead shark.
You have to think critically for a second, because you're like, is this maybe a sleigh? Like, is this a serve that just caught me off guard for a second? Like, you got to kind of like adjust your eyes to it. And you're like, okay, now that I've actually thought about it, it is actually pretty cool. Like, you have to kind of give it a minute, warm up to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so great hammerheads and bonnet heads, I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. I mean, they're super cool looking for different reasons. Great hammerheads are powerful and majestic, and they just give this grace and this like awe-inspiring beauty. Bonnet heads they just make you go, aww. And you just want to like pinch their little cheeks. You just want to be like, oh, I want just like a little version of you to carry in my pocket. That is what I want.
It's like the puppy of the shark family.
Yes.
They're the puppiest shark.
Yes.
They're so cute. For anyone who has been listening to this and is like, oh my gosh, this sounds amazing. I want to learn more about sharks and what it's like to work with them. Could you let our friends listening know about your book, Sharks Don't Sink?
Yes. So July 16th, 2024, Sharks Don't Sink, Adventures of a Rogue Shark Scientist is coming out. This is a book that I am really excited about. It kind of talks about the cool science behind sharks, some of the research that I've been doing over the past couple of years, and it ties that all into the founding of myths and my story and the story of my family and other coastal communities. And so it's a lot of sharks, it's a lot of social justice, it's a lot of just enjoying the ocean and just reading about inspiring and fun moments that I've had with the ocean. And so highly recommend. It's a great summer read, especially if you're at the beach. It just feels like a strong beach read to me, because you're just reading about the ocean.
Oh yeah, nice poolside.
Yeah.
Because then you can like read your book about the sharks and then just kind of look up at the ocean and you'd be like, yep, that checks out. Like this, that's what that is. That's the ocean right there.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're like in the middle of land and you're like, I wish that I was at the beach right now, but instead I'm in a cubicle. And you read that and you're like, I'm basically at the beach.
Some escapism. Well, I will have links to everything in the episode description, so anybody that wants to learn more about either Miss or wants to go check out where they can find your book, I will have links to that. Just scroll down in the episode, click through the links. Jasmin, where can people find you? Do you have social media profiles where you would like people to follow you?
I have a Twitter. I'm at Elasmo_gal. That's ELASMO_GAL. And Elasmo is short for Elasmo Brank, which are shark skates and rays, in case you were like, what the heck is Elasmo? So you can find me on Twitter at Elasmo_gal.
Amazing. I will have links to that as well. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing time. I've really appreciated your time and your knowledge and your energy. It has been really fun, as it always is, learning about sharks from you. Thank you so much. We will talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that these sharks have hammered their way into your heart. If you liked what you heard, I hope you leave behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. If you want to hang out with us online, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, TikTok. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can also send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you have a cool animal you would like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside their other wonderful shows like the ones that you heard promos for here today. You can go check those out, learn more about the network, and how you can be a part of supporting our show and get access to our exclusive members-only bonus content over at MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Audience supported.